G'day there guys, Mark Narration's #1 fan here, it's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/AmiTheA A-hole. Now if you love today's bloody good episode, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody entertaining content. Thank you. Posted by user Throwaway Sayday, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my ex-husband my child support obligations are over? So my 39 female ex-husband and I have been divorced for the last 13 years. I gave up custody of my daughter during the divorce and have been sending over child support checks until May of 2020 when my daughter turned 18. My daughter is a quadriplegic and has been since she was 5. Her dad lost his job around 14 years ago, so for the first 2 years after our divorce, the child support me and my then new husband sent over was what helped them survive. My checks have never been late, but now I have 2 kids with my current husband, aged 12 and 8. I've been a stay-at-home mum for the entirety of our marriage, so it's been my husband being kind enough to pay for a child that's not his. When my daughter turned 18, I talked to her and basically wished her and my ex luck in whatever they choose to do in the future. I get a call from my ex-husband saying that my daughter wanted to start college in the fall of 2021. The college they picked was the best in the state for students with disabilities, but that my ex-husband couldn't foot the tuition alone. He said that our daughter couldn't do any of the student jobs available, and said if I wanted to do right by my first kid, I should help foot the bill. I was talking to my ex on speakerphone, and my current husband interjected and said that was all his money, and he has done everything to help me meet my legal obligation, but that's done now. I told my husband that our daughter is now a legal adult, and I had covered her expenses when she needed a lot of medical attention at the ages 6 and 7, and that we were only a bit older than her when we were already parents. I told him that I had already done right by our child, and that college isn't a necessity. I wished them the best of luck in looking into possible other scholarships and grants, and said I had 2 other kids that needed me. Am I the a-hole for fulfilling all my legal obligations and telling my ex that his 18-year-old is an adult now? And OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I might be the a-hole for reminding them that I was the sole source of income for a few early years after our divorce. Legally, of course, you have filled your obligations. You have no obligations to this daughter legally, they can't really take you to court for anything there, but morally, you are all over the place. I can understand that a daughter being quadriplegic is enough to make or break a relationship there, but you kind of just writing her off and saying that, you know what, I don't have to look after you anymore. You are my daughter, but I don't have to do that. And then using your new family to excuse your actions of walking out on your daughter as well is just inexcusable as well. You think you're the a-hole for reminding them that you were the sole source of income from a few early years after your divorce. That's not at all why you would be the a-hole. You should have just rephrased that one, I might be the a-hole because I'm a terrible person. But hey, whatever floats your boat, OP, keep walking out on your child, I'm sure that's gonna do well for them. Now in the comments, Trillium Summer says, Wow, you just washed your hands of your child, didn't you? And correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like OP A left her daughter as soon as her daughter became quadriplegic, B has provided minimal financial support as a mother, and for some reason thinks this is sufficient, and C that her 2 able-bodied kids should just take precedence just because? Striking Firefly says, not the a-hole to your ex-husband, but very much you're the a-hole in regards to how you've treated your child. I guess you moved on to your real children and real family and just left her in the dust, huh? No, you didn't do right by your child because you sent her money until she was 18. Doing the math, you gave up custody right around when she became quadriplegic. Doesn't seem like a coincidence to me. You've been a terrible parent. And are we just going to ignore the fact that OP's youngest is 8 years old? That she's a stay-at-home mum so she couldn't possibly get a job? Because what? The kid is 8. Time for OP to get a job and finally take responsibility for her firstborn and help her life. Info. Wait, hold up. You've been divorced for 13 years. Your oldest is 12, 9 months pregnancy, so it sounds like you cheated on your first husband while your daughter was a quadriplegic. I thought I read that wrong, but nope, your comment confirmed it for me. Posted by user Ashley Indigo. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not allowing my mother-in-law to sign my daughter up for a purity ball at her church? So I've posted here before about my mother-in-law, and now I'm back with another issue. My daughter Tess, 9 female, has gone to church with mother-in-law periodically since she was little. I don't love that, as I'm not a religious person, and my mother-in-law is an aggressive Baptist. But my husband thinks it's a good bonding activity, and so I don't complain. Plus, it gives us adult time on Sundays. Well, because of the virus, services have gone online. Tess still goes over to mother-in-law's place and helps her set up the laptop for them to watch together. She also zooms into a girls' Sunday school group after the service. Last week, Tess came home chattering about the ball and how mother-in-law is going to take her shopping at a fancy shopping center in our town. I thought she was playing an imagination game, so I just nodded along. Then my husband chimed in to remind Tess that the budget is $50. I was super confused and asked him what was up. He gave me a kind of shady look and said that the girls' Sunday school class was having a dance this June. I asked him how COVID would affect that, and he didn't know. My spider senses were tingling, so I pulled him aside to the back porch. Eventually, I gathered that he was talking about the annual purity ball for the 10 to 14-year-old girls. He said my sister-in-law had done it in middle school, and it was just a fun thing and not a big deal. I started blowing my top, to be honest, and I informed him that purity ideals are bad for girls. I thought we were on the same page about those topics, but he thinks it's just a fun thing for girls to do and get dressed up. My husband claims that he wasn't trying to hide it from me, and that he thought I knew, given how popular the purity ball is at their church. I put my foot down and texted mother-in-law to ask if she'd signed Tess up. She said not yet, and I made clear I wouldn't allow it. Period. Ever. Mother-in-law sent back her usual stuff, implying that I'm a hoe who led her son down a bad road, and I'm an unfit mother. Am I the a-hole for forbidding the purity ball? The only reason I could be the a-hole is I unilaterally decided against my husband's inputs, and I think Tess will be disappointed. If your husband tells your daughter to go jump off a cliff, do you think it's wrong that you can unilaterally tell them no, don't do that? I'm just going to apply that schoolyard logic here because that's kind of what's going on here. If you know the dangers that you perceive purity balls to have, and you perceive that as something that you don't want your daughter doing, and he knows that, and he still pushes it regardless, you have more than a right to be the one that says no to this. It does take two to tango. He doesn't get the full authority on situations like this. Obviously, things like this are going to be a case-by-case thing, but you have given me enough evidence to say, in this case, we can say no. That's something we don't want to be doing, and we've made that clear. So in this situation, not the a-hole OP, morally, you're doing the right thing in my eyes. Now in the comments, Never a Thought says, not the a-hole. Purity balls are creepy and weird. They also give people long-lasting issues around sex and intimacy. Ayo! And in general, sexualize young girls for no reason. Mother-in-law and husband had no right to promise her this without talking to you about it first. Unfortunately, she's already excited about the shopping and dressing up, so that's a whole other subject to broach. Ah yes, let's send our daughter somewhere where she's given a rose, and told that represents her, and then has the petals ripped off, and is told that's what sex does to her value. That won't give her any lifelong hang-ups about sex, right? Oh my god, is that what actually happens? Yes, and I actually went to one of the more progressive churches where we were allowed to have youth groups with the boys. I was told that everyone you have sex with leaves an echo, And when you stand up to get married and take your husband's hand, all those echoes stand up with you, and do you want a chain of men holding your hand when you're getting married? If it makes you feel any worse, they actually do that in public schools' abstinence-only programs too. Also, the tape thing where everyone touches a piece of tape or crumbles up a piece of paper, and then the tape is all gross and the paper can never be smooth again. Your tax dollars at work. Vote in school board elections, people. Not the a-hole. Those things can get very creepy very quickly. It's all dressed up to look harmless, but there's something about dressing little girls up in nice dresses that are frequently awfully reminiscent of wedding dresses, telling them that their virginity is the most valuable and important thing about them, and frequently promising their virginity to their fathers until their wedding day that gets very squicky very quickly. This kind of crap needs to stop. It's not harmless dress-up for fun. It's a mind game and abusive misogyny behind harmless-looking sparkle. And Rit Posit Rit says, not the a-hole. Your husband is the a-hole here. He knowingly hid this from you, went behind your back and made these plans that he knew you did not agree with. Yeah, he claims he wasn't hiding it from me, but I have trouble believing it. He was 100% hiding this from you. He knew you were opposed. He knew about the plans and the details. Direct all your ire at him. Mother-in-law may be an innocent party here. She may not realize he hid it from you. I agree that husband is the a-hole, but my guess is that he and mother-in-law were in on it together. OP, when it comes to your kids, you and your husband need to be a team all the time. He should have told his mother that he'd discuss it with you before saying your daughter could go, and if I were you, I would have a long talk with him about making sure you're both on the same page about anything mother-in-law, or anyone else really, takes your daughter to do. It's a problem that your husband thinks it's okay to be sneaky about things related to raising your daughter. Posted by user snisnisbisbwub, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter, 5 female, that she would be getting a bob cut if she couldn't manage her own hair? So my wife, my daughter's mother, recently passed away. Before she passed away, my wife would always do our daughter's hair. She has long hair that goes down to the middle of her back. My wife would often braid our daughter's hair, or put it in a ponytail, or style it if left loose. I'm a guy who has almost always had short hair. I had long hair for 1 or 2 years when I was a baby, my parents' choice, and my mother always did my hair then, not my father. Since the age of 3, I've always had short hair and never grown it out, so I really don't have experience dealing with and styling long hair. The funeral rituals ended a few days ago. During the funeral, my mother-in-law did my daughter's hair, but now she's gone back home. She lives in another country. My daughter came up to me and asked me if I would braid her hair before school today, just like her mother used to do. Her school is partially online and partially in person right now. I told her that I didn't know how to do that and to figure it out herself. If she couldn't, then I would take her to get a bob cut, and she started crying. A bob cut, for those who don't know, is short hair, kinda like a buzz cut or a crew cut. Am I the a-hole? I understand that your wife is no longer with us, and that this may just be an incident where grief is blinding you, and it's a bit too much to deal with, and this is something that, I don't know, you can't comprehend right now. I would love to give you the benefit of the doubt in this situation, because sometimes we do irrational things when we are going through grief. But that's absolutely no excuse to threaten cutting all of your daughter's hair off. That's really heartless, mean, and cruel, and it's just adding on to the suffering and grief that you and her are experiencing. There's absolutely no reason you can't go to Google and learn how to do it yourself, and there's no reason that you should be seeing any of this. So for that one, I'm going to go with You're the a-hole. And in the comments, Involuntary Cynic says, 1. That's not what a bob cut is. 2. You're the a-hole. Google it and learn how to braid your daughter's hair. And 3. You're the a-hole again, as saying it once isn't enough. It's kind of hilarious that he starts the statement of what a bob cut is with, in case you didn't know. Dude, it's not everyone else who doesn't know what that haircut is. Lol, let me mansplain this girl's haircut incorrectly for you. Never a Thought says, you're the a-hole. Your daughter is 5 and dealing with trauma most adults can't fathom. Get on YouTube and learn to braid like a real person instead of threatening her with a punishment she doesn't deserve. She is 5, you are an adult. Edit to add, a bob is a short, chin-length haircut. If you buzzed your daughter's hair, that would be so far beyond a punishment, that would be abuse. I understand your suffering, but you need to either get it together for your daughter, ask someone to stay with you, or send her to stay with a grandparent for a bit, because you're in a dangerous territory. This is an example of terrible parenting. She's 5, and being a dude with short hair is no excuse. Kids usually still have help with their hair up to 12, depending on hair length and styling help. And having children's hair forcibly cut that short would be child abuse, and one of her teachers will call social services on that. And AmiTheA Slays says, you're the a-hole. Are you effing kidding me? Be a man and learn how to take care of your daughter's hair. She's 5. And you're the a-hole. Your daughter reached out for a connection. In a time of great pain and suffering for you both, she chose to share a cherished moment which could have bound you together in grief. And you basically told her to F off, her mum's dead, she needs to get on with it and sort her own hair out. What an absolute effing disgrace you are. And in the post, OP puts an update saying, I read the responses and realized I'm the a-hole. My daughter's long hair is something she and her mother bonded over, and it would be cruel to get rid of that, especially when she doesn't want me to. It's similar to someone chopping my wedding ring in half, which I would be horrified of. Last night, I did a lot of research on dealing with girls' hair, and checked to see what products my wife had used to care for my daughter's hair. I also watched videos and read online articles on how to braid hair. This morning, I woke my daughter up a little earlier than usual. I kissed her on the forehead, apologized, and told her that I was going to braid her hair before school. She smiled and gave me a big hug, which was heartwarming. After she brushed her teeth, I washed her hair again, dried it, detangled it, combed it, and braided it. My daughter was over the moon and looked beautiful. After school is over, we're going to head over to the convenience and drugstore to buy more shampoo, conditioner, hair oil, a new brush, and even a few cute bows, hair ties, and headbands. I told my daughter that I will do her hair every day until she's older, and she said I'm the best father ever. And I will keep my word, because I'm not just a father anymore. I'm a mother too, Mr. Mum, and I love my daughter. I'm also sorry about not correctly stating what a bob cut was. I now know I was wrong about that as well. This has been a rough time, but my daughter and I are going to get through it together. Doing her hair this morning was a great way for us to bond. Posted by user Obese But Cute Dachshund. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my nephew that the reason he has designer shoes is because his mother is irresponsible with the money my husband gives her? So I actually did have a reason to say this. My husband has a middle-income job and I stay at home. We have a 4-year-old boy and his sister is a single mum with a 6-year-old boy, his cousin. She lives in public housing and my husband gives her about $300 a month, which I found out about a year ago by looking at his bank statements. This amounts to thousands of dollars per year. Something that has always annoyed me is that she spends what I see as absurd amounts of money on items for her son that he will quickly outgrow. Since he was 2, he's worn triple-digit price tag sneakers, and for his 2nd birthday, she got the whole family together and got him a cake that she told me was over $200. I see that as a waste of money for people of our income level, let alone her own. Recently, we were all together at my in-laws' house, and her son tried to dunk on mine by making fun of him for getting clothes from Goodwill. Obviously, he's too young to know better, but this is just stupid. My own parents were middle class, but we shopped at Goodwill because it's a good deal, and it's stupid to be ashamed of it. What made me mad was that after my son got visibly upset, My sister-in-law started laughing too, like it was a cute little kid thing. I said, well, you only have nice clothes because your mother is stupid with the money my husband gives her. Cue sister-in-law screaming at me, and my husband looking awkwardly at the floor. He's non-confrontational, and me passively-aggressively smiling until we hightailed out of there. One of the things she yelled at me during the confrontation was that I'm lazy and don't work. It's true that I don't work, but I keep our household spending down by cooking budget meals and carefully planning our budget each week. The whole incident was pretty upsetting, but she's been known to be aggressive towards me in the past, and I didn't like that she was enjoying the opportunity for her son to be mean to mine when thousands of her own household income are going into hers each year. There's a lot to unpack in this one, but really at the end of the day, you guys shouldn't be arguing like this in front of the 6-year-old and these children and bringing the children into it. This just seems like a lot of childishness and irresponsibility from all 3 adults trying to one-up each other or something along those lines. I just don't understand why you guys couldn't communicate about this away from the kids. Realize that they're young, they don't understand the financial situation that you guys are going through, and keep it at that. Then walk away from these kinds of situations and talk about it in private like normal people. Some parties may be more guilty than others in this, and some less than, but you all still did something wrong in this situation, and for that, I'm gonna give you an everyone sucks here judgment. Now in the comments, Webby Vanderquack says, everyone sucks here. All 3 adults. You should not have dragged a 6-year-old child into this bitterness over money. It's between the adults. He might have behaved badly towards your son, but he's barely old enough to tie his shoes, and he's not responsible for his mother's poor decisions. If you have an issue with the money your husband gives his sister, raise it with your husband. Don't just lash out randomly at the most powerless person. Agreed. So disappointing to see yet another adult on this site rage at a child that they view as nothing but a stand-in for their parent. Also, that comeback straight up sounds like something a playground bully would say. Good job on showing a huge lack of maturity, OP. And the thing is, she's not necessarily wrong, she's just a complete a-hole about it. Fire Inside of Me says, everyone sucks here. Oh wow, a lot to unpack here. So you, a grown woman and mum, thought it was okay to trash talk a 6-year-old's mum to him. Granted, that 6-year-old should not be bullying your son, but you should have age-appropriately told him to be nicer, and then talk to your sister-in-law. Secondly, your husband should have told you he's giving money to his sister instead of having to find out in his bank statements. Not cool to hide something like that from your wife. That's $3,600 a year. Thirdly, you and your husband need to communicate about this money. Your sister-in-law's actions, her attitude and cruelty to your son, should have consequences. And fourthly, let's not police your sister's spending. Your husband gives that money to her as a gift, and it's really crappy when people add strings. If you resent what she spends it on, don't give her money. Problem solved. If you're worried about how this will affect her son, then buy him a few needed items she can't pawn or sell, or offer to pay for some of his school or doctor bills. And OP replies, it's not my savings, so I don't feel like it's my choice. I wouldn't care if I thought she just needed the money, but I feel like she blows it on dumb stuff. $300 a month could go to your son's future college. Your husband's first responsibility is to his family, you and your son, period. My husband fully states his money, savings included, is my money too. I always ask if I need to take some. I'm unemployed thanks to the pandemic, and he finally told me to stop asking and just do it, as I handle the finances anyway, and he views me as his partner and equal. We don't even have kids yet. He asks me before buying a gift or giving money to someone, and I do the same. There would definitely be trust lost if I found out he was hiding $3,600 a year to give to his sister without talking to me. Your husband literally lied by omission of the truth. Well, I disagree that you shouldn't help a sibling in need in general. I mean, in OP's case, sure, leech. But in general, it's not a bad thing to help your sibling in need. Of course, spouse and own kids come first, but they're not the only ones. Don't be that one that craps on everyone that is not in your family. And the only taco boss says, everyone sucks here. If she feels she is so superior for having nicer things, she obviously doesn't need your husband's support. But if you feel so sour over it, maybe have that conversation with your husband instead of involving your kids. There was definitely a better way to handle that. If the parent of a kid refuses to tell them that teasing someone is wrong, how should the victim's parents respond? If an adult laughs at and joins in mocking a child, how should the victim's parent respond? Age-appropriate reprimanding of the kid about how bullying is wrong, and then pull the parent aside and talking to them about their own behavior, not acting as childish as the literal child. Shake my head. G'day there guys, and that's the end of today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed it and were entertained by today's bloody good content. As always, I want to do a quick shout out and a thank you to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. Your beautiful faces and names will be up on screen right now. Haven't forgot about you guys, sorry I was taking a little break there. So yeah, if you see yourself, give yourself a pat on the back. If you want to be on this screen, there's links down to the description below where you can sign up and help support the channel and all future projects that I'm going to be doing on this one. With all that said, I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. I'll see you in the next episode, and I do hope you enjoy it. Thank you.